Hi there. Today is a challenge lock from user Samelias on the Lockpicking United Discord. He goes by EarlGreystoke in the Lockpicking subreddit. This is dubbed Cherry UNcordial because it's his first challenge lock to make and my first challenge lock to pick. I'm doing the intro separate from the pick and gut because I had some technical difficulties. I'm using a new camera and I didn't realize that the microphone on it didn't work. Odd. So my entire pick and gut has no sound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw some music on for you while I do the pick and the gut, and then I've got another little piece that I'll throw on at the end. He asked for general advice, feedback, what I would do different, and I do have some ideas. Overall, this is a fun lock. The core was a little sloppy. It's got a catch with the key, but the key does work. Key was mummied. You'll see that in the video. Nothing left to her but to do it. So, pitter patter. All right, success. Got her open. Let's get her out of this vise and down where we can gut her out. I don't know what I'm waxing on about here, but pretend it was something eloquent and or funny. Ooh, a little video inception there. All right, everything in line here. This is not the first time I've picked this, so I had already unmummied the key once, so I remummied it for the video. Decent bidding on it. Unfortunately, they stamped the code right into it. I hate it when they do that. But you can see it's got some great high ones, hiding a low one, and then a sixth riding on the tip. Makes you feel like you've been working all day. Apologize for being out of frame there. Pulled those pliers out to do another lock earlier and proceeded to stab myself in the thumb. So I'm trying to be more careful than watch the screen to make sure you're still in frame. Apologies. That hurt like a pig, though. Don't do that. Right. So the reason I'm doing the voiceover is because the camera I'm using has a broken microphone, apparently. I didn't know that. I wear it in a rig on my chest so that you see what I see. Gives us both a great shot. Unfortunately, when it comes time to gut, you don't get as good of a shot. So I'm just going to throw you in my vise real quick. Apologize for the motion. All right. I am going to shim this. It's got a pin that kind of acts like a T-pin when I was picking it, so better safe than sorry. My theory on shims is it's like suspenders and belts. It's just more gooder. Hooray, I didn't drop anything. All right, you're not going to be able to see these pins as I drop them, so we'll get them all out and then we'll talk about them then. Neat thing to note is that the back of this has been ground away a little bit, that sixth pin. Makes it a little more floppy. Definitely fun. Come on, dude. You're slow. All right, looking at the core. Fighting to get it in focus and at a place where you can see there are serrations. I believe it was cores or pins 1, 3, and 5. They're not very sharp. Seems like maybe an undersized tap was used or a dull tap. Either way, it I doubt it had any effect on the pins. It just kind of made noise. See if we can get that to zoom or focus or anything, because it doesn't look like it. No. Sorry, y'all. Next time I'll use a better camera. All right. So hey, what do you get when you cross a drunk monkey with a Dremel tool and a saw blade? That's right, my tension wrench. Isn't that thing a piece of work? Hey, tools don't have to be pretty. All right, here we go. See what's in the brains of the outfit. Pin 1 is kind of neat. Pin 1 is, well, Weasley Willie would call it an Xmas tree. West Coast Picks calls it a wedding cake. It's kind of just a tapered trapezoidal T-pin kind of thing. No hard shelves like a T-pin would have, just a soft-sided triangle. It's kind of a pain in the butt to pick. I like it. See full thickness at the back there. He had it pointy side towards the spring. Pin 2 is a serrated spool. It looks like a standard American serration that had been modified to a really sharp shelf. Like that pin. Really good shelf. Here I am fighting with a spring again. Try to give you guys a view of the tray and not the back of my hand. Pin number 3 is down at the shear line, so I gotta futz with it a bit to get it up. This is a spool-o-majigger. So what it looks like is a serrated pin that on the bottom half was just had a file ran through it on one side, like to make a spool. Maybe I'll spin it there. Yeah, you can see the back of it is still just a serrated pin, and the front of it there is cut out like a spool. Interesting concept. Probably mess around with it a little bit myself, but I don't know how much it actually came into play. With the rotational force of the springs, it's kind of uncertain whether you're going to be interacting with the ledge or with the serrations. I don't know. Play around with it, see what I come up with. It's a good idea anyway. Remember, there are no bad ideas unless your idea is pulling the pin on a hand grenade and sitting on it. That would be bad. All right, fighting still to get this spring out. This one's kind of a pain. Looks the same as the spring in 2, just a little bit fatter. I think it is the same spring. It might have just got chooched out a little bit in that hole. Anytime you're ready, sir, pin number 4. Pin number 4 is just a standard. It's very shallow, so not a lot of meat to work with. I feel you, dude. I burnt my fingers on my Dremel carving one of those out for my last project, and I don't know that it was worth it. Sometimes those drastic cuts are best left alone. Oops, I just pulled the plug follower all the way out and caught number 6 in my hand. Once I get it back into frame, It's just a standard, looks like a repurposed key pin. And he had that pointy side towards the springs. And then number 5 is another one of those spool-o-majiggers. Cut on one side, not on the other. Again, I'll have to play around with those, see what I come up with. Alright, see if we can get these last 2 springs out of here. There's number 6, copper 1. And then that's a black steel 1. As far as threading goes, you can't see it on the reload slot, so kudos to you there. But there is threading in, believe it was 1, 2, 3, and 5. Again, not very deep threading. Barely enough to get caught on my tweezers, but there is threading there. Overall, a great pick. EarlGreystoke, great job. Smee, keep building them. Keep building them. This is a good one. Definitely on my list of harder locks to pick. Yeah. Thanks for playing along at home. Sorry for all the weird technical glitches. Okay, so Sam asked me what I would do, what kind of improvements I would make, so here's my honest opinion. First is the threading. If you're going to go through the effort of threading chambers, I would make sure that they're the sharpest threads that you could possibly get. Go out and buy a new tap if you have to, if you're getting suboptimal threads. It's a lot of energy to do that, and if you're going to do it, you need to do it right. It needs to interact with everything. These threads are really, really shallow, and I honestly don't think they played much as a factor in the teardown of this. And I'm probably complaining about taps and lubricant and things like that. Next comment is about the spools. Like I showed in the gut down, they're only cut on really one side. And it's a flat in cut, which honestly you don't get any feedback from these, and I think they acted more as a serrated pin than a spool. So what I would do is, if I didn't have a Dremel or something to get rotational out of that pin to really cut it like a spool, I would get a file and I would cut it on all 4 axes and make it square. What I loved your actual spools, your serrated spools. They looked like they were American serrated stock pins that you turned into spools, and they turned out beautiful, nice and sharp. Next is your Christmas tree pin. You had this placed shallow tip up, narrow tip up. Oh, sorry about that. If you paid close attention, you just saw my gorgeous model-like face. Anyway, you had this pointy end up, and that tends to get stuck in springs. So what I would do is actually have it pointy end down. That way it acted a little bit more like a T-pin and actually got some more play. Next up is that spool. Hard to tell without it being in focus, but that is a spool. You had that sharp end up. I would just flip that so that you play with more of the spool than the serrations. Same with the other spools. Because you took the time to serrate the Bible, you might as well make them suffer through serrations and then the spool. So I would just place those so that the sharp end is in the plug. Your next one is a number 8 cut, so there's not much you can do with that. You left the little guy standard, which I don't blame you. I burnt my fingers last time I did one of these, but you had it pointy end up. And I actually tend to like them pointy end down into the plug because you get a little more floppiness out of it because of that chamfer on there. So when I put it back together, I did put it back together that way, pointy end down. Next is the other square-ish spool, I believe. It won't focus and I don't remember. Just remember we want them to fight with as much of the spool as we can. So put that spool side down. Then your last one is just a standard pin. Because that's such a high cut, it's an opportunity that I think was kind of missed. What I would do is maybe change the pinning a little so that you could have maybe a smaller pin in the driver slot and then turn it into a nasty T-pin with that cutout. Would be a gigantic pain in the butt. So I think there's a definite room for a showstopper with that hollowed out bit, but I don't think a standard driver pin repurposed is going to do that. It needs to be modified somehow.